So I'm recording the video on here. So this video is going to go onto YouTube. So eventually, so I'm going to do a channel which is going to be the Podiatry Legends podcast uncut. So if you make any major areas on here, it probably won't be on the podcast, but it will be on the video. So no picking noses, no doing anything like that. It will be on there. I will not edit that out. Okay, so I'm going to do my intro. Here we go. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. Podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. This episode is going to be a ripper. I have a group of students from around the world and we're going to talk about where they see podiatry going. We're going to talk about social media and also what got them into podiatry. What was it that really interested them? So what I'm going to do is go around, introduce them one by one. They're just going to say where they're from, what university they're at, and and we're going to take it from there. So I'm going to start with Ektaa, only because you're in the top left-hand screen as I'm doing the video here. So Ektaa, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. So full name, where are you studying? Let it rip.
All right. My name is Ektaa Vadgama. I study at the University of Northampton, and I'm entering my second year of podiatry.
Okay. Sarah, you're up next.
Hi, how are you? I'm Sarah Cox. I'm study at Charles Stuart down in Albury, and I'm a first year. And so yeah.
Yeah, that feedback that was Diksha, but we won't mention that. Josh.
Hello, my name's Josh McGill. I'm in my second year at Trobe University.
Cool. And there was somebody else from Trobe who was supposed to be on here, but he obviously had a big night on the booze and did not turn up. We won't mention any names, Larry. Emily.
Hello, yes, I'm Emily Reaney, and I am going to Huddersfield University this year. So I'm starting my first year.
So where was that?
Huddersfield University.
Okay, is that far from where you are, Ektaa, or is that, well, everything in the UK is close?
I'm not really too sure. I'm still kind of navigating myself in the UK. So I think Huddersfield is probably not that far from Northampton, but don't quote me on it.
It's not too far. It's probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
So, Yona, you're up.
Hi there, guys. My name is Yona Mizrahi. I am a third-year podiatric medical student at CSPM. That stands for California School of Podiatric Medicine.
God damn, you got a sexy voice. If anyone has not told you that before. So just thought I'd point that out. And next we have for some reason.
Amarilys. You say Amarilys. Well, my name is Amarilys Montalvo. I was born in Puerto Rico, but I came to Florida about 7 years ago, to Orlando. And I went to the University of Central Florida. I majored in health sciences. And now this year, I am a first year student in Berry University, College of Podiatric Medicine in Miami, Florida.
Cool. So, and finally, last we have Diksha. And you are a partner in crime with Yona.
Yes, yeah. So I'm also a third year podiatric medical student at CSPM. And yeah.
So, and
it's Diksha, by the way.
What's that?
Sorry. It's Diksha.
Okay, sorry. I just
I know.
Oh, no. Well, on Facebook you're a different name altogether.
Sorry about that. I shouldn't have changed. It's probably a little scary to be messaging me. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to start the first question. And the first question is, what areas do you like most about podiatry and why? So Ektaa, you're up first.
So my favorite, so the biggest thing I like about podiatry is, it would be anatomy, because I want to head more towards pediatric surgery. So I think for me, anatomy is the biggest thing about podiatry that I truly enjoy. Yeah.
So is that what got you, so you going into podiatry in the first place, is that what excited you? Was it anatomy that got you in the first place?
Oh God, no. My mom actually, so my mom's a podiatrist and she recommended that I do it. I was studying law before I wasn't enjoying it. It was a really miserable subject, and a miserable field altogether. No offense to anybody that is actually.
Oh no, but have you met lawyers? If you met a lawyer, you'd understand. They some of them are just miserable people, which is why they're doing law, and would never be a good podiatrist and wouldn't be on this podcast.
No, this is a thing, and I think that I'm far too soft to be a lawyer, and it's just the field. It kind of comes with the territory. You can't really be empathetic and compassionate when you're a lawyer. So whereas in any kind of medical field, I think the biggest things you need are empathy and compassion. Otherwise, I feel you can't really help or relate to your patients, and you don't know what would be best for them. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I joined podiatry.
Okay, that's great. So Sarah, what about you? I know you're just starting into first year.
Yeah, so we've just started doing a little bit of clinical stuff at the moment. It's just like a little bit of wound care and just using the Dopplers, but I'm a very hands-on person. My past 2 careers are like forestry, horticulture. I've got a degree in horticulture. So anything that's using scissors or cutting is quite sort of common to me. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to have a little bag and I used to do everybody's toenails. And I remember this is in the 80s, half of you probably weren't even born, my mum bought me a little Dremel, and I don't know where she got it from. I think she got it from overseas. And I used to do filing nails with the little Dremel. And it was like so exciting, but it was like, and anything to do with a tool, I think is really good for me. Anything hands-on, and I can use electrical tool. It's pretty cool for me.
It's interesting because it's partly how I got into podiatry was because of orthotics, but mainly the making of orthotics. Because I was going to be an art teacher, and I just loved art. But my brother was doing dentistry, and got up me just saying, "What do you mean you want to do art? You're going to be a poor art teacher. I'm going to be a rich dentist. You're going to be hitting me up to borrow money all the time." He said, "You'll have a Porsche, you'll have a Volkswagen." And so I went and saw my art teacher and said, "What sort of car you got?" She said, "I've got a Volkswagen." Why? I went, "Oh shit. That's not good." And then my brother said, "Do something in the medical field and you will never be unemployed. You'll always make good money." So I went, and then a friend of mine had already started podiatry, and then he knew I was good with my hands. He said, "You will love making orthotics." So yeah, the hands-on part, I think is really interesting. So Josh, what about you?
You're probably not going to like this, Tyson, but I think I like wound care the most when it comes to, yeah. I know
You've
you're not a
obviously
fan
listened
of
to a few
wounds.
podcasts it makes me dry reach.
I go through phases. Like some days I'll be like, "Oh, I love biomechanics more," and other days I'll be like, "Oh, I really like dermatology and wound care." But yeah, I think dermatology and wound care is definitely my favorite part of podiatry.
Yeah, have you listened to that podcast episode with Joseph Frankel?
Yeah, that was the first podcast I listened to.
Mr. Wounds, yeah. And it was the same thing. Like you said, that was his passion in podiatry. But it wasn't once until he got into podiatry that he always thought it was going to be biomechanics as well. But once he got into it and saw his first ulcer, I don't know, it got him excited. I remember seeing my first ulcer and just dry reaching. So, and it has not changed.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned him. I was talking to him about coming on this podcast on Thursday.
And he convinced you?
Yeah.
Because you originally told me, "Oh, I don't think I can make it because I'm going to be drinking that night and or working." Were you working you're going to be working in a bar?
Nah.
No, it wasn't you?
That wasn't, not me.
Okay, maybe that was Larry. He did.
Yeah.
He already said that he may not have been able to make it. So that's fine. Okay, Emily.
Yes, hello. So I think having danced for so many years, obviously movement is a huge part of my life, and posture, and when I was teaching, sort of especially in ballet and contemporary, you're always working from the ground up, using your feet, pushing through the floor, and I think that having stopped dancing, and then I actually moved back home to Sheffield and started working with my mum, who is also a podiatrist, and I spent a lot of time in her practice over the last 2 years. I realised how the two are so closely linked, sort of movement, keeping people moving, and I think that's what really made me think, no, actually this career is a really great move.
Okay, and I want to point out too, Emily's mum is Louise Reaney. So if you've listened to the podcast at all, she has the second most popular episode. I think it was called "Podiatry was boring my ass off."
Yeah.
And that episode just went. I think, give it another 6 months, it will be the #1 episode. And I don't know, it has to be the title. The title just...
Repeat Jonathan Small, and he's knocking off the top place.
Yes, Jonathan Small is at the top, but he's been on 4 times. He's like a serial offender.
Yeah.
He's been on multiple times. And I actually stayed at Jonathan's house when I was over in the UK. And yeah, met his family and his small little town that has nothing going on. Well, actually, there's two tourist attractions in his town. One was the Air Force Base. That was number 1. And the second tourist attraction was the Monkey House Cider.
Oh,
So we went there.
nice.
And the cider, I must admit, I love cider, and their cider was awful. But,
Oh, no.
it's just it was rough. But it was just full. There was a little shed there full of all these old people. And then there was this old lady, I think it was a lady. I'd have to ask Jonathan to clarify this. But anyway, this old person was like in the dark and sort of swooped up to take her order. And you know when you watch those vampire movies and the creepy person sort of just turns up? That's what sort of happened. So who did we just lose then? Oh, Josh just dropped out. No, Josh is there. It just, the order's moved around.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
where was I? So, Yona, you're up next.
So what I like about podiatry would probably be that it's not just only focused on the anatomy of the foot, but you look at the dermatology aspect of things, the musculoskeletal of things, neurological, the vascular of things. And I love how this field incorporates all those things that other specialties specialize in, versus us, we specialize, yes, in the foot and ankle, but we also have to cover those topics briefly as well when we're looking at a patient and when we're evaluating patients. So I love that sort of aspect of this field, and that's why I think it's a hidden gem in itself.
So before you came into podiatry, were you aware, did you know about some of that first and you went, that's what interests me, or you've learnt that as you've gone on?
That's a good question. So the reason why I got into podiatry is because I had 5 foot surgeries. When I had my first foot surgery when I was 16, and then I had a surgery every year since then until I was 22, I believe. And I knew that I really wanted to go into something with the lower extremity anatomy field, like ortho. Yeah. But I shadowed a podiatrist, and just looking at their patient encounters and seeing how everybody was having positive feedback with them and the personal relationships that they were developing, and just seeing that they were checking everything, all their vital signs, all the vascular, the neuro stuff. I was just like, wow, I'm really impressed by this field. And it's not aggressive. See, with ortho, from my stance, from when I shadowed doctors, ortho is very aggressive with their technique. They want to do surgery. And I'm not trying to categorize all orthos like that. Yeah. But podiatrists have this sort of notion about being very conservative. We like to be very conservative when we see a patient instead of going to the aggressive route of doing surgery. So I really like that aspect, because I know from my standpoint, I wish I didn't do surgery, but I've learned a lot from it. And yeah. I think the conservative measure and really pushing that sort of idea to patients is what we need as doctors to do. And I love that podiatry really promotes that.
Yeah, well, when Howard Dannenberg was on the show, and he's been on twice, and he sort of mentioned that 2 times, that you're taught surgery, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's so many other ways of treating a problem. And surgery should be the last resort. It's not the first resort, whereas some people, they just head down that path. They just want to chop into someone.
Right.
And even just recently, when Richard Chasen was on, and he was saying that, what's interesting with podiatry that people don't realize, there's only 3 professions that are allowed to cut into somebody: dentistry, podiatry, and just your doctors. He said, so when you think about that, he said, we're actually in a really unique profession, but you can still build a career without actually cutting anybody. So imagine being a dentist and going, no, I'm not going to infiltrate your body in any way.
I agree. There's so many podiatrists where we're at right now, who just specialize in just nail care and diabetic foot care. And it's really interesting that we go through this 3 years of surgical residency, but we don't actually always jump to surgery for a lot of these cases. And a lot of these doctors over time just stick to just one category, like let's say making orthotics. And they love that. And it's a great business for them. And there's no liability with that.
Yeah. I've never killed anyone giving them orthotics.
Right. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I felt like I've almost killed myself sometimes when I try something new. Oh, I wonder if this will work in a design. So I test it out on myself and go, no, that was a bad idea. Won't be writing any papers on that. So, Amarilys, tell me.
So yeah, I agree with Yona. I think this field is very diverse, and that's what I really got my attention when I basically submerged into it. My interest so far, I like a little bit of everything, I guess, right now because I'm in my first year. But what I really think I would like more in the future would be to see more biomechanical stuff. I use orthotics myself, so I really know how life changing they can be. And I'm also very interested in working with patients with disabilities or different abilities, rather. And that's what I expect to see in the future.
Okay, so you were exposed to podiatry beforehand because you said you had orthotics.
Yes, actually, I thank God I went to an internship in the podiatric school in New York for a summer.
Yeah.
And I met the biomechanics professor, and I volunteered to give, like, he wanted a volunteer to put this device and see how the pressure of the foot, and immediately he asked me, "Oh, you have foot pain?" Because I could see it in the thing that they put me. It was like a belt, but I also went all the way down to my foot. And I'm like, "Yeah, how do you know?" He's like, "Yeah, I can see it." They're like, and then, obviously he's like, "Oh, I think it's plantar fasciitis. Does it hurt here? Does it hurt there?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes. It hurts in the morning when I wake up, blah, blah, blah." The next day he just comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I took your numbers. It's like some data that it produces, the machine. And I made you these orthotics and you can have them." And I even like, it made me tear up because for me, it was like somebody that's trying to help me and is going to alleviate this pain. And that was very emotional for me. And they sold me after that. I fell in love with podiatry. And also I noticed that when I would shadow or any type of interaction that I would have with podiatrists, I would see that they were very personal with their patients. And most of them, they would take their time and get to know them very well. And a lot of them are just very good listeners. And they're a person before a podiatrist, and I think that's very important in this field.
I agree. I think a lot of the podiatrists I know who are good podiatrists, and when I'm saying good podiatrists, I mean the ones that make the most money or the ones that got the biggest clinic. Just the best podiatrists I know are also the best communicators. And when it comes to communicating, it's more about listening than it is than talking. So it's I think you make a really good point. So Diksha, what's your answer to this question?
Yeah. So what I love the most is a few things. I really like the variety. Like everyone was saying before, there's so much that podiatry has to offer. And I'm someone who gets bored very easily. So I like that I'm always on my feet in cases when I'm in clinic. I really like that. I really like that it's almost like I'm a general physician for the feet. Yeah. And the fact that I'm not just general physician, I can also be a surgeon at the same time. And so I like all those aspects. And then being able to have a relationship with my patients over time, because a lot of the patients we see, obviously we see over a long period of time. So I like those aspects of podiatry.
So at your podiatry school, do they, you'll see a particular patient and you get to follow that patient through over the years as you're going through the course?
Well, no. I wish it was that cool, but no, I'm at least for the month. The last clinic that we were at, I for one got to see the same patient throughout. I don't know, she came a few times, and so I kind of grew with her, and I had a relationship with her, and it was nice to have a friendship with your patients. And even though I was a student, I still learned a lot about her and what she needed as a patient. I think that's something that you can't say for every profession. So yeah. I'm glad.
So yeah, back in the olden days when I did podiatry, we were seeing patients after the 6th week of starting. So we were straight in, and after 6 weeks, I had a scalpel in my hand, and I'm debriding callus off of people's feet.
Wow.
And I remember him giving to me going, I don't feel qualified to be doing this. And we had practice. We used to get, so we had 6 weeks of practice of getting wax. They'd like this wax that molded, and we'd mold it to somebody's foot in a certain area. And the goal was to get the wax off without cutting.
Oh,
and we did that
so
after 6 weeks at QUT in Brisbane. So by the time you saw the patient, all of a sudden you were nervous, even though the scalpel was sort of wobbling around like this. But after you did the first patient, you went, wow, this is just like taking the wax off. So we were really hands-on and just thrown into it. And then once you had a patient, you would see them pretty much most of that year, because they'd be like, say, a first-year patient. And then people that had an elevated problem, they'd be a second-year patient.
Huh.
But when we were on clinic, sometimes you wouldn't know, when you were seeing new patients, you didn't know what they're coming in for. So as a first year, you might see them and go, oh, wow, this is a big biomechanical problem, and I have no idea about this. So you'd refer them on to third year. But then when you got to third year, you'd get to see those patients back.
That's so cool.
Which was a lot of fun. And then I remember, even when I moved to Cairns a number of years later, some of the patients that I'd seen in Brisbane had actually came and saw me in my own clinic. And some of them were like little kids when they first came and saw me. And then when they saw me later, they told me how old I was, which, yeah, they had to charge me more after that for being a smart
So then
ass.
did you go to the same clinic throughout?
Yes. So we had a clinic on campus that, so we rocked up, and we, you know, it was A block, which was the podiatry block. And everything that happened in that building, same place every day. We were on clinic. I think by the time we got to our final year, on clinic pretty much 5 days a week, just seeing patients. So yeah, and then you had the orthotic lab was on the other side of the hall, so we'd make all the orthotics there, and then the biomechanics lab was just down further from that. So yeah, it was a really, really good setup.
That's amazing. Thank you.
So, but anyway, this podcast is not about me. Oh, but partially about me. So next question, we're going to go back to the top, back up to Ektaa. How important do you think social media is? And I know you're a bit of a social media tart. Is that offensive
Social media
to say
what?
that? Oh, I can. In Australia, we call it, if someone's on social media, we go, oh, geez, they're a social media tart. So they don't say that anywhere else. Actually, usually they say something else, which is a lot more offensive.
My mom would agree with you, but I don't think they say that anywhere.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes they say things a little bit more offensive than that, but we all know what they mean. So how important social media to you? Like now as a student, I'll share my opinions at the end, but just tell me what you think about social media now and how important it is.
I think it's, well, that's a great question. I think it's incredibly important, especially with the pandemic that just has hit us. We've had to rely more heavily on social media and interacting with our patients. I say we, I mean actual podiatrists that have graduated, not like really students. Although to be fair though, I've been milking social media quite a bit lately.
No.
But honestly,
hey, just because we've got the video on at the moment, put your hand up if you have not seen Ektaa on a video. If you have not seen her.
Oh, none of them have probably seen it.
I know. Okay, half have, half haven't. Believe me, track her down on Facebook. Go, and if you want a laugh, watch the videos. Yeah, split personality, definitely. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Oh, what was your question? I forgot.
How important is social media? How important do you think social media is, like whether it's now as a student, but also for the profession and for your career?
I think it's really important because to be fair, not a lot of people know what podiatrists do. A lot of people still think that podiatrists just clip nails and then they kind of send you on their way. And if they want, you know, if you want proper care for your foot, you see an actual doctor, which I think is kind of hilarious. And I think social media, I use social media in a way where I can say what I want to say without saying it directly. I'm just trying to make it funny so people still get the idea. And to be fair, like a lot of people have had to use social media to rely on social media and reach out to their patients. So yeah, I definitely think it's 100% important. Okay. And you get to show your personality.
Which I think is good. It's
Yeah.
I do know some podiatrists that this is going to sound funny, that they don't use their real name on Facebook, and I'm not pointing at anybody, and that's because, well, you're still a student, so that's fine. You're allowed to try and hide. But I do know some podiatrists that they've got businesses and they've got substantial business, a lot of patients, but they won't put their real name on social media. They have just a completely different name because I don't want my patients to find me. And I'm like, no, your patients need to find you. You just need to not be an idiot. That's the main thing. Being on social media, let your patients get to know you a little bit.
I don't think a lot of people have that skill with social media. And the way, especially with like the DPM journey, like I think their videos are absolutely amazing. They have really good content, and it's really informative content. And they're still students. I think there's a lot of professionals out there that aren't utilizing any social media skills. And there's so much to it. There's so much to this social media and how we reach out to our patients. It can really make a huge difference, but you need to have that knowledge and skill. But you have to make the effort for sure.
Okay, so can you just do your English accent for me before I move on to Sarah?
Nah, mate.
Is that it?
Yeah,
everyone will have to watch your video. Everyone will have to watch your videos. Okay, Sarah, what you're thinking on how important social media is?
Because this is not my first rodeo, I used to have my own business in floristry, so we would use social media as a really big thing, and especially with where I come from, it's one of the most important things to get clients. So I have an Instagram page, Facebook. I got my stepdaughter to teach me TikTok the other day. So I think it's really, really valid.
Don't start dancing.
Yeah, do something. So yeah, no, for me, it's been really important. Like I used to do really large, luxurious weddings. And for me, I would get, for one, say, wedding, I might get, say, 100,000 hits. And then I'd get a lot of customers wanting to know what I did and how I did it. And then they would want me to go and do their wedding. For me, it was a great opportunity to use these things. And I used to have a YouTube channel. So I think for me, having my own businesses prior, I can probably move this into podiatry. And as Ektaa was saying, it's true. I think people don't know enough about podiatry. And I feel as a marketing and a business person, it sort of feels like that we've never been really promoted. We're sort of like, oh my God, we're just over there in the corner. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that if we continue using the social media. But I must admit, I've also used television, and television is really good, especially in regional areas in Australia.
Oh,
for
yeah.
us,
Yes.
We just did I do a bit of consultancy with a florist in a regional area, and we did an advertising campaign, and it was amazing the amount of people got to see it. It was really amazing. And the broadcast of it and the amount of what it turned into profit-wise was phenomenal. And it's not that expensive. Everyone thinks it's quite expensive per month. And it was really funny. I was getting people in the streets because I work all up and down the New South Wales, which is probably like 600 kilometres apart. And I also work in correctional centres. And some of the inmates were going, oh, I saw you on television, miss. And so the broadcast was like, we're talking from Albury to, say, Dubbo, which is probably like 500-600 kilometres. That's like 7 hours away. People were going, oh, I saw you, So I believe that anything to do with marketing, especially with guerrilla marketing, and I know that when a lot of businesses start, they don't have a lot of cash. So, doing social media, it's not that difficult. I mean, I'm 46, and I have a crack at it. I'm not the best at it. It's not my genre. We didn't grow up with it, but I have a crack at it. And so, yeah, it's really good. But I help other people. But, I mean, I'm not really au fait with all the coding and getting people up the food chain and all that. But then I just hire someone who's in that area of expertise, and they help me and prompt me to get there.
Well, so, I think the one thing with social media, I did one of the talks last night, and I mentioned about social media. And when I've done some of my marketing workshops, and I said the biggest mistake some people seem to make is they forget the whole part of social media is the social side of things. And when I've been in a room full of podiatrists, I go, put your hand up if you follow your chiropractor. And no one puts a hand up. I go, put your hand up if you follow your dentist. No one puts a hand up. I go, well, why the hell do you think your patients want to follow you? And like, oh, because I'm so cool and different. No, you're not. You're boring. So you got to try and find your angle. So, Emily.
Well, I agree. I think that it's a great place to reach out to your ideal patients for marketing wise, legitimizing your business. You know, we've all got Google My Business pages and things like that. And I think being able to look on somebody's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter sort of legitimizes them. But I also think it's great for practitioners to be able to communicate together that might not know each other outside of social media. I mean, there's a page called UK Podiatry, which I think mainly is used for people to just ask advice about things. Like everyone said, it's such a varied profession, and people specialize in areas for a reason because they're particularly passionate or they're very good at it. And it's great to be able to call upon those sort of gurus to help you with things. And I think that's a great use of social media for the profession.
Well, you think of everybody that's on this podcast and the video, we all connected through social media. This is what some people don't, when I was saying that social media is all about being social and it's about connecting with people and letting them into your house a little bit without actually letting them through the front door, and just getting to know each other a little bit more. And even though with Emily, we actually have met in person at that really, really great, I think it was an Indian restaurant in Liverpool.
Yeah, before the foot show.
The biggest naan I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It looked like a bedspread when they brought it out on the table. It looked like a tablecloth. It was huge. So anyway, Josh, you're up.
Yeah, so I think social media definitely has a growing importance, especially for sort of my generation, I think, because if you think about the patients we're going to be attracting in the future, like they're the people that are using technology now and probably keep using like social media like Facebook and stuff. But I think as a learning tool for students, social media is is so awesome. Like I've learned so much about the podiatry field from being on like LinkedIn and joining Facebook groups like yours. Like you just learn so much, and you can kind of bridge that gap from uni to sort of into clinical practice a bit.
I think, Josh, you were one of the first students to come onto the Podiatry Business Owners Club, and you sent me a message saying, oh, I'm a student. I don't know, do I qualify? I said, yeah, no, students are welcome. Come on in.
Yeah, I remember that. You had your questions and I accidentally backed out of the questions.
Yeah, you just said, oh, I'll just enter without answering questions. Okay, you can't enter without answering the questions.
I actually didn't mean that.
So unless I'm already, like if I'm already connected with, like Yona and I only connected yesterday, I think it was. So now that we're connected, I can send him a direct invite to join the Podiatry Business Owners Club. Therefore, he skips all the questions and just goes straight in. So yeah, that's the thing. Oh, did you have anything else to say before I interrupted?
No, that's probably about it. Yeah, I think if you're a student and you're not using social media to learn and connect with podiatrists out there, I think you're crazy. Like, I think you definitely need to make the most of the tools we have.
Yeah, I agree. So Amarilys, my favorite Puerto Rican student. What's your thinking on this?
Well, I agree with everybody. Definitely, it's an amazing tool to market yourself, to bring awareness of podiatry and the services, and a great educational tool. I've linked with, for example, with Dr. Brennan from Healthy Feet Podiatry.
Yeah.
I actually got to shadow
Todd Brennan, who's
Todd Brennan, the
yes.
Yes, such a great person. So it was actually in the Facebook group. So he commented on my one of the posts I posted, and then he messaged me directly. He's like, "Hey, anytime you want to shadow, you're more than welcome." And I got to go shadow him. It was very interesting. He obviously, I don't know if you guys whoever's been to the Healthy Feet Podiatry Instagram page, for example, I think they, bring awareness of podiatry by posting really cool videos.
Yeah.
And also they market themselves very well. That same day I got to shadow him, a lady, one of the patients, she drove about 2 hours, I think, just to get there because he's posting videos about the regenerative medicine treatments like plasma, using plasma, things like that, and it was a type of patient where she had tried everything, and she's like, I've tried everything, and I know you do this service and you offer this, so I saw your videos and I drove all the way here just to see you for this, and so I think it's very important to just bring awareness of your services and also what you would like to educate people on.
Yeah, and that
super
they've
good.
done some. They get hundreds of thousands of views on their YouTube videos,
Mm-hmm.
and Todd and Leo were on the podcast earlier on, and yeah, unfortunately, Leo passed away 2 weeks ago. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, Leo passed away. So, and he was a fit.
It was so shocking.
He was a fit, healthy guy. So it just it's just a warning to everybody: is go get a regular medical checkup. just never, if anything doesn't seem right, just go get yourself checked up. So especially when you're in your 50s, it's really important. So Yona.
So I think maybe me and Diksha can answer this question together.
Yeah, Diksha, if you want to unmute yourself and both talk at the same time, because this is the DPM Journey Instagram phenomenon, people who yeah, you guys do some really, really cool stuff. I actually thought you had already graduated when I first came across your Instagram page.
I thought so too.
Yeah, the quality of it, I just went, oh, these guys are very, they're educating students on what they're going to be going through. And it took me a while to realize, oh shit, you guys are still studying. So
yeah,
I think you do a great job. So I'll let you talk about your Instagram page and the why you started it, the benefit of social media.
First of all, thank you, Ektaa, for your compliment. That was very sweet. And also, obviously, Dr. Franklin, that's really sweet of you as well. It really means a lot because sometimes, I'm going to start off with the con of social media. The con is sometimes when you're creating a channel like this or an Instagram like this, you don't always know whether you're making an impact or whether it's effective or not. And yeah, so it's just a little hard sometimes. But for me, I guess, or for both of us, we started this because a huge reason I'm glad that podiatry is growing on social media is because, like someone had mentioned before, there's not enough out there about it. And it's so unfortunate because podiatry is important, it's essential. We're making so much of a difference. I mean, we're physicians, so it's a little hard to see that there wasn't much out there. And I wanted to change that for students in the future so that they're not as confused as I was. For me personally, I used YouTube as a way to see what kind of profession I wanted to go into. So I would look up anything about nurses. I could find anything I wanted, students who were in nursing, students who were physician assistant students, just anything I wanted about a healthcare professional. It was there. I even found one on, I don't know if naturopathic physicians exist in other countries, but I looked that up and there was even a channel on that. So, and that's even, I mean, there's not that many of them. So I was shocked that there was that, but there's nothing on podiatry except from physicians themselves. I mean, I'm glad at least like you were saying, I need to pronounce it right. Amaryllis? Amaryllis. It's not even a hard name, it's pretty. Amaryllis. Sorry about that.
I know when people were joining on, I'm thinking, I just need a few more Marys and Sallys, which are really easy. To say, because I struggle with the first names, and there was some of the surnames on some of the people that could have been on. I went, yeah, I'm not even going to go there. So sorry, I interrupted.
You needed a Bob or something. No. Yeah, no, but Healthy Feet Podiatry. I'm glad there's podiatrists like that who are making a lot of videos like that. The Toe Bro, I think, was the one. Bro,
yeah.
Yeah, I really like that existed, but then I wanted students out there. So I'm glad that we had that opportunity to go out there and use our social media for that. I think that's really important, and also learning through social media. But the main thing I really want to change is just, I want people to know what foot doctors do. I just want that to be a thing. What about you, Yona?
No, I think it's really, what you said is a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like in the world we live in right now, which is the US, there's two big dominating factors, which is MD and DO. And there is no space for DPM in that conversation.
Can you explain that to us? Because we don't get that here in Australia. Sorry.
Yeah, so you speak, I understand because I speak American. But
yeah, I don't speak American. Sorry, Aussies don't speak American. Sorry.
No, so there's allopathic medicine and there's osteopathic medicine, and they both have these are two different school training of thoughts for medical school that are different in the sense that one is more looking at the whole body versus one is very textbook and is very like, okay, if it's in the textbook, this is what it is. And
I mean, they're both the same. They're both the same. But what DOs went through is what podiatrists are going through right now. So osteopathic physicians had to fight to be seen as equal for years. And then now podiatrists are dealing with that. So we are what the DOs were back in the past. Me is how I could explain it. Sorry, go on, Yona.
No, 100%. And yeah, so the reason why we got into a big part of the reason why I got into social media with Diksha is just to bridge that gap between the healthcare professions, because I want people to see us as doctors. And I hate this stereotype that we have all foot fetishes. Like, we don't have foot fetishes.
Yeah.
People with foot fetishes like nice feet. And if I was looking at a gaping ulcer with maggots in it, I think I would be turned off immediately. So the idea that we have foot fetishes makes zero sense to me. So people need to understand that we're just more than that. We don't have foot fetishes. We are doctors. We go through 4 years of medical school here, 3 years of residency, and 1 to 2 optional years of fellowship. That equates to what MDs and DOs do on our end. So it's very sad that we have to fight to get regarded as being a physician, even though we go through 2 years of clinical experience in medical school, and again, the 3 years of surgical residency. It's very sad to see that. And
it's a long slot. You guys in America go through so much pain and suffering compared to the UK and Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So in Australia, you finish high school or whatever you want to do. You decide, I want to be a podiatrist. You go to university, 4 years, done. That's it.
It depends on what uni you're at. Like like with Charles Stuart, we 4 years, but a lot of it's there's a university in Newcastle. They do it in 3.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah, so it's different, but we don't come out as technical. We can only be a doctor of podiatry medicine, so we can only use the title as long as we put podiatry next to it. But we don't actually technically have a title. But we don't.
Yeah, so legally we're allowed to use the title doctor, but there's a lot of podiatrists who go, oh, we're not worthy. But then you've got like Dr. Richard Chasen, who was on, he goes, there's only 3 professions that can cut into the body: podiatrists, dentists, and GPs. He said, so to think that you're not worthy to use that title, he said that is just completely wrong. So more and more podiatrists are starting to use the title and are starting to accept it. And you get the occasional podiatrist go, oh, if you use that title, you're a wanker. And you sort of go, no, you're a wanker for thinking that anyone that uses that title is a wanker. Because how does just using a title categorize someone as being a wanker? It'd be different if you walked up and you just kept introducing yourself as, I'm Dr. Tyson, I'm Dr. Tyson. But if it's just to gain respect from the public, I don't see a problem with that. So
it's a good marketing tool.
It is a great marketing. It's
a marketing tool for us.
So I know in America, you guys go through so much. And because I've been going over there every year for years, and I've had so much to do with podiatrists over there, it really surprised me that you're still actually, it sounds funny. It actually puts a smile on my face to know you're still disrespected over there like we are over here.
Yeah, I guess it's a world struggle here.
Well, I think what it is, I think other professions sometimes look down at the feet and they go, oh, they're just feet. But as Peter Wishney always says, we don't just treat feet, we give people their lives back.
Right.
So they don't realize the importance of the foot. Without them, it's really hard to get around. So yeah, it's yeah. So Yona, if you had more to say, I'm sorry.
No, you guys hit the nail in the coffin. It's exactly, we're all going through the same struggle, and I just feel that if as a podiatry student and podiatrists out there and prospective students, I think we just need to come together and support one another and help one another, because without having support within our community, how else are we going to make a difference outside of our community? Mm-hmm. And that's the problem I'm slightly seeing with our community, is that yes, we have social media accounts out there, but are we promoting it as much as we can? And that's the big struggle. And I feel like we're not.
I think the hardest part is, sorry to interrupt, I think the hardest part is, what I notice is with a lot of the qualifications, is that they don't have, it's very small about business and marketing. And I don't understand that most, like, I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of the percentages here in Australia, you go into private practice. There's only a very small amount of jobs in the hospital. So for us, probably 80% of people will either work for someone, like, or there's quite a large percentage that will own their own business, but they don't have any marketing or, business acumen. And I find it really tricky, and I don't sort of understand that. There's only, like with us at Charles Sturt, I think you can do 2 electives, but you don't have to pick business. You can pick other things. Whereas I think that would be really imperative. I tell, because I'm a TAFE teacher, which is like a college, I think you guys call it college, I just say to the students, go and get some sort of business qualifications, like even if it's a Cert 3 in business, just so that you understand how business works, because you're going to get, like, I've had 2 businesses. I would not have ever started them unless I had some sort of business knowledge. I think that's how I would work it. Do you know what I mean? And
by
I was
a really
really lucky
good
because
book called It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry. That's
I know, I've read it. It's fabulous. You should all read it. Really good. I've got one. It's on my bookshelf. But I think the thing is you just need to get some business acumen. I was lucky in my last degree, it was incorporated in it. We had to do accountancy. We had to do business. And I don't understand why a lot of the degrees don't have that.
Well, what's funny is when I actually wrote that book, I wrote to every university in Australia that were doing podiatry. And I said, I want to come in and talk to your final year students. For an hour, just talk about the business of podiatry, what they can expect when they graduate, if they want to go into business for themselves. And not everybody should. If you're a really good practitioner and you hate business, then go and get a job somewhere else in a good business and just be the best you can be. Wrote to every university 3 years in a row, and not one. And I said, I will pay my own airfares and my own accommodation just to get in front of the students. And not one of them took me up on it.
I was about to say, we'd love you to come to us and talk to us about it.
Hey, next year, if I can get out of the country in 2021, I will, we'll organise that. So, but eventually one of the, Paul Butterworth, who was the head of Southern Cross Uni on the Gold Coast, happened to be up here in Cairns, and we bumped into each other, and I said, and that was the only university I didn't write to because I didn't realise it was even there because it's so small. And I think they had a school of like 6 students or something like that at the time. So when I contacted, I told him, and he said, oh, I'd love you to come and talk to my students. So we ended up doing a Zoom video for them.
Nice.
Because it's just timing, I couldn't get down there. And we recorded that. Now every year, the graduating students get to sit down and watch the video that we produced 3 or 4 years ago. So, okay, let's move on to the last question. This is actually I think this will officially be the longest podcast episode I've put out, which I think is great. So, and this next question is the one that I think if there's any employers or podiatrists that are already in the profession are listening to this, like I usually say, if you haven't enjoyed it, give yourself an uppercut, take a couple of headache pills, and go back and start replaying it again. But I think this question is the one that employers and potential employers need to listen to. And it's, where do you see podiatry in the next, say, 5 or 10 years? Where do you see the profession actually going? So everybody on my screen now has changed order. So I'm going to just start with Sarah. You're at the top left-hand side. So you get to answer this first.
I think the thing is, what I noticed with podiatry that's changing, especially in the student space, is they're getting more cadetships, so that you join a cadetship and so you start working in the hospital in year 1. So there's a trial going on at the moment where some of the students year 1 are just going straight into the clinic, and they go 1 day a week, and they go in there and do that for, like, I think New South Wales Health.
Okay.
But for me, I think for the industry, it's a little bit like where I was in floristry. It's very behind, and everyone just thinks you just arrange things and all, like you just do play with feet type thing. And I think niching and also niching your business, but I also think that, like, a lot of one-stop shops, like, you know, chiros, chiros, pods, you know, they'll be one sort of place. Do you know what I mean? Like a more like one-stop shopping. You'll go there for like a sports injury, and then they might come in with problems with their feet. They might see a chiropractor, then they might see the podiatrist, and then they may go and get acupuncture or something like that.
So it's going to be like a multi-center.
Yeah, multi-center, and because it's sort of happening in some of the regional areas. But for me, we've already talked about social marketing, but I'm really big into tech, like tech design, and I like designing things. So for me, I would like to think that there'd be more in the technology, as in 3D printing, more of that sort of side of things. But I think designing tools and equipment will be one of the new innovations, because I think there's a lot of space to do that. That's what I've noticed so far in my very small amount of time in podiatry. I know, because I've come from other industries, I see what's lacking, and I just think, oh my God, that's lacking. I think I might be able to find something there. Do you know what I mean?
I actually think people who are coming into the profession, I think there's a lot more mature age people coming into podiatry where they've done other things before starting podiatry. And I think all those skills and attributes that they've got and their experience, they bring that into the profession. Some of them have had engineering backgrounds, or they may have had nursing, or they've been firefighters, paratroopers, like Ian Sadler in the UK. He was a paratrooper before joining. And just this skill that they bring in, and then they start teaching that to everybody else. I think that's having a big effect on the profession as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I just think that it's quite exciting times, and I think there's lots to happen. I just think that you just have to get your community and try and work together to get to the other end of it, and hopefully things will change. It's a slow process, but I think you guys are all young. We'll get there in the end.
Oh yeah, they'll probably all see. Oh, they're definitely going to see us out.
Yeah, you'll see all that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'll have my wake on Zoom. They'll all be there. So, Emily, where do you see podiatry in the next 10 years?
Oh gosh, so
you've grown up with your mum being a podiatrist, and you've seen the ups and downs, and now you've seen the definite ups. So it'll be interesting.
Totally. I mean, I'd like to think it's going to be a race to the top, and that podiatry can be valued from inside and outside. I sit back, and obviously I'm not a clinician, I'm not a podiatrist as of yet, so managing a practice and interacting with a lot of podiatrists. I mean, I've been to a lot of conferences, I've met a lot of podiatrists, I've shadowed a lot, and I've grown up around it. And sometimes I hear podiatrists saying, oh, well, I couldn't charge that, or I'll just do that, or and I think, gosh, you're so skilled. How can you not see how skilled you are and how much value you are bringing to somebody? And I think that's got to come from within to start. So it would be great in 10 years' time for that mindset to have changed from within the profession. And I think that people like you, Diksha, and Yona, who are doing the social media movement early on and really promoting that that's gonna flow through the next 10 years and really carry some weight behind you with it.
That's a good answer. So next, and Podiatric, because you've been the practice manager for a number of years, haven't you, with your mum?
Yeah, 2 years nearly.
Yeah. So even though you're only just starting podiatry, you've seen your mum's business and the type of work that she does. And like you said, you've been at conferences, which is where we met, and when you listen to the attitude sometimes of people, they don't value what they do. And my last blog article that I put on my website was just about respect. And when people join the Podiatry Business Owners Club, and I ask them what's some of your biggest frustrations, and some of the answers have been, I hate it that the public don't respect what we do. And I'm going, well, first you've got to respect what you do. You can't call another podiatrist a wanker for using the title doctor, because by doing that means you don't respect what they do. You don't think they're worthy to have that title. So you've got to first respect yourself, and only then is the public going to respect what you do. And I did have patients who would say silly things like, "Oh, you got a foot fetish." And if anyone ever says that to you too, just look at them dead in the eye and go, "Wow, I've never heard anyone say that before." And then just go silent. And all of a sudden they'll go, "Oh, geez, I feel like a real dickhead, don't I?" So it's all about respect yourself first, then the public will basically follow. And through my whole career, I don't feel I've ever been disrespected by a patient. I've had them ask stupid questions, but I've always really respected what I've done, the education I had, the training that I did afterwards. So I think if you keep your own respect level up.
As well, I don't know, I guess a part of my point of view is that I don't think necessarily that a lot of the time patients are disrespecting practitioners. I think practitioners are scared that they might be disrespected.
Yeah.
And then that in turn leads to this sort of downward spiral of this sort of like imposter syndrome and all these things that lots of people have that stop them from thriving and having that mindset of thriving instead.
Yeah, and also I think when a patient asks, and it's just a tip for you guys because you're all going to be in practice one day, when a patient asks how much is it for a particular service, they're not always looking for the cheapest. They just want to make sure they've got the money on them. It's no different to you going into a shop and this is for the women, or Josh, Yona, there's a dress there and you're with your girlfriend and they're looking at a dress and they will ask, if there's no price on it, how much is this dress? They're not saying, oh, because I want the cheapest dress, I want a discount. I just want to know how much it is. Do they have the money in their account to buy the dress? So patients, I think, sometimes do the same thing when they ring up and go, how much is the initial consultation? They just want to know that they've got the money. They're not after the cheapest. So,
just for transparency, it's, honesty, keeping communications open.
Yeah.
People have got to know how much you're charging.
And if you don't have much respect for yourself, you actually think, oh, they're saying I charge too much. They're looking for the cheapest. And no, they just really want to know how much it is. So,
wow.
Next, I'm going through the videos here. Amarilys, what's your answer to this question? Where do you see podiatry in the next 10 years?
So I am very hopeful, not only because social media is going to bring more awareness towards it, but also, so here, well, at least here in Florida, in the insurance aspect of it. So currently, podiatrists, we are not seen as physicians under Medicaid. For those of you who don't know, Medicaid is like a federally funded program that provides health insurance for a lot of people here in the United States. And typically, if you want to see a podiatrist, or unless you're diabetic, you're not able to be able to see a podiatrist in the front line. So, for example, you would have to go to a physician first, a general practitioner, and then they would have to refer you. But my school, some of the faculty and some of alumni, they have actually presented the HELP Act, and HELP stands for helping ensure, I had to look it up because I couldn't remember, helping ensure life and limb saving access to pediatric physicians Act. So this act basically will try to put podiatrists under physicians in the Medicaid program. So people can they could be more aware of our services and take advantage of them, because, well, it's essentially to prevent, other, like food problems and general health, basically it's just for prevention of a lot of things, and that way we could decrease morbidity in this country. So I'm really hopeful. I think that a lot of people are going to become aware of our services if they implement this, and we are more accessible through insurance and all that.
Yeah, and I do believe, like the earlier question with podiatrists getting out there on social media and just letting people know what we do. So if all of a sudden, and to me, sometimes that's what creates public outrage. Why are these people not being respected? Why are these people not being covered by, like in Australia, it's Medicare, and over there it's Medicaid, different systems. the UK podiatry is big with the NHS, the National Health Service. So yeah, so it's different in every country. So Josh, where do you see podiatry in the next 10 years?
Oh, particularly in Australia, like I think we'll continue to see like niching be a big part of podiatry, especially in the sports side of things. So it's like when you talk to students, like I know in my own cohort of students, so many of them want to be involved in sports. They want to treat like running injuries and do like exercise therapies and strength and conditioning. That's really common at La Trobe, I know, with students. And I think sort of public appreciation for us will definitely continue to grow. Like I remember the start of the year, I was talking to this kid who was telling me he'd had these problems with his toenail and he was complaining that this doctor had pulled the toenail out. I was like, oh, why don't you go see a podiatrist for that? Like that's like our bread and butter. And he's like, what's a podiatrist? And I was like, how do you not know what a podiatrist is? But then I was like thinking like, did I even know what a podiatrist was in high school? Like, I don't even think I did, to be honest. And I think, in Australia, I think there's only around 5,000 podiatrists in the whole country. And I think as that number continues to grow, the public will become more aware of what we do. And I think we're only going up.
Well, what's interesting, we've got about 5,000 in Australia for a population of 26 million. America's got over 300 million. And I think there's only about, is it 14 or 15,000 podiatrists?
How many podiatric schools are there in Australia?
Oh, it's a fair few.
It's about 8 or 9 now, is there?
Yeah, something like that. But it's really depends on where you are. But like our classes are really small. Like we've only got 12 in our class.
Yeah, whereas La Trobe though, La Trobe have like 60 or 70 in a class.
We have 50 in our cohort, I think around 50.
Yeah, we've only got 12 at CSU. It's really small, but it's really niche and it's really cool.
Yeah, and when I finished podiatry, I think we graduated with about 9. There, 9 graduated, and there were about 90 jobs. That was a good old days.
Yeah, so, there's definitely small cohorts, and I think that's one of a selling point of doing podiatry, because you have such a tight knit group. Like everyone's like the best of mates. Like you go down, like we just finally had our first class on campus last week in like months, and it was just so great to see everyone. And the class, like the teachers, like all the academics at La Trobe, like I sort of when I was in health science, like the teachers and the lecturers are kind of like authoritarians over you. Like you didn't really connect with them. But in podiatry, like you're like friends with the teachers and the lecturers, and it just like feels like one huge family.
Yeah, it does. It's good like that, isn't it?
Yeah, we were really close to our lecturers as well. We had back in '88 they had Expo '88. Which was, I don't know if anyone knows what an expo is, but anyway, all these, the whole world would get together. It was like a trade show. It was like an Olympic trade show where every country would come in and just show why their country was awesome. And then they built the Britannia Inn, which was an English pub. So that's what the English pavilion was, this English pub. And now most of our lecturers were English. So we would pop over there every now and then with the lecturers and have bangers and mash. So... And I know the Americans would go, what the hell is bangers and mash? Sausages and mashed potato with gravy. Okay. Diksha, where do you see podiatry in the next 10? And this is interesting too, because once again, you're in America. So it's a different beast over there. And Trump is your president. But that shouldn't influence anybody. And what you're going to say.
Okay, well, I have high hopes for our future. I feel like we're going to flourish. We're definitely going to flourish.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have seen My Feet Are Killing Me, but if we already have a show for our profession, I think we've done very well. So I was actually going to say, I'd like Podiatry Legends podcast. I'd like it to become a show. So if you could go ahead and do that, it would be great.
Yeah, it could be a show, but they'd have to get somebody else to do it because I'm too old. Because you have a look at Dr. Brad. Brad has got that square jaw. He's just a
No.
good-looking dude.
Yeah, but you
And-
have a lot of experience and you're great at what you do. So
But he's
That's
moving.
okay.
Did you hear the episode where he was on the podcast?
I haven't. I didn't know there was one. I have
Yeah.
to hear that.
He's I think the episode is My Feet Are Killing Me. So so he works with Peter Wishney in New Jersey. And so through Peter, I got hold of Dr. Brad. So he came on the show. Super nice guy. Just, if you see him on TV and how he behaves there, and then you talk to him as well, just super. I'm not gay, but if I was,
Oh, he
he's the
seems
type
very
of
kind.
he's the type of guy you'd want to be with. Yeah, just a super
Wow.
nice guy.
That's amazing.
So
But
I've
yeah,
probably
I
interrupted you.
just I feel like because of because of their show, because of your podcast and everything that students are doing now, I really think we're going to get on the map with this. And a lot of students are fighting with lawmakers and everything to get us on the map, just like what Amarilys was saying in Florida, all that stuff that's happening. I hope that becomes prevalent throughout America and throughout the world. I don't just want it for America, right? But because I recently, I was telling my mom to go see a podiatrist because she was talking about her toe. Something happened to her toe. And I said, it's bothering you so much. Just go see a podiatrist. It's not that big of a deal. But because of COVID and everything, she was saying, well, I have to first see my primary care physician and he doesn't have any time. And then I can go see a podiatrist. And I don't realize it because when I'm in clinic, I'm just directly seeing my patients. So I don't realize that oftentimes regular patients have to do that. And that's awful. We shouldn't have to do that as patients. We should be able to see our podiatrist directly. I think it's quite annoying. So, but anyways, I think things are changing for the better.
It was funny when you just mentioned about the primary care physician, like in the States. Somebody posted something the other day and it said 12% of people, when they're asked that question to fill in the forms, who is their primary care physician in America, they write Dr. Oz. So yeah, if anyone listening to this who doesn't know, Dr. Oz is like a TV show. So they actually wrote Dr. Oz is their primary care physician. That's where they get most of their information from.
Oh, trust me. Anytime I tell anyone anything, they said, yeah, but Dr. Oz said this. And
Really?
that's good, but
Dr. Google.
he is right about a certain part, but I actually do like Dr. Oz a lot. At least, so that's what we need. We need a show like that with a podiatrist. That would be good.
I think it will, like you said, what with My Feet Are Killing Me and those type of shows. I think like so many people eat up all those pimple popper shows, and there's a lot of disgusting parts of podiatry too.
Yes.
That I don't particularly like. But I think there's a lot of other parts of podiatry that it could just become part of. Even when you see these shows and they'll have the show used to be on gay guy for a straight guy, a straight guy for a gay guy. It was one of the two.
I've not seen that.
And they bring in there's a guy who wants to he's a bit of a scruff, and they want to help him find a woman and go out on a date. So one of the gay guys would help him with his clothing, the other one to help him with the cooking and wine, and the other one would help with his grooming. But then you've got the medical versions of that, like those botched shows and all that, where they're transforming someone over a period of time. So maybe a podiatrist one day could be on one of those shows, and they're helping them
that's a good one.
with just their feet and other things that are actually happening. Is this part of if you want to exercise, your feet are going to be working. If you're in pain, you're not going to exercise. You're going to put on weight, and and then things spiral out of control. So, Yona, where do you see the profession in the next 10 years? Where do you see it heading?
I think everybody has given a lot of valid points at this point, and I don't want to keep repeating this, but just for the student perspective side of it, applying to podiatry school, just looking at the statistics of podiatry school, our GPA is around a 3.3 to get in, MCAT's around a 500, and the statistics compared to MDDO is very low, but that's because not a lot of people know about podiatry, right? So in 10 years from now, I think it's going to be a very competitive field, and those statistics are going to rise steadily. And this field is going to be a privilege to be in because a lot of people say that this field is a fallback. It's your plan B. And I don't like to hear that, because it's not a plan B. This is 4 years of medical school again, 3 years of residency, possible years of fellowship. So that's a long time, and you're probably in $500,000 in debt. Jesus. So yeah, so be aware that this
doesn't happen over here.
Right. This is not an easy field to go through and train in, and people need to understand this is a privilege, and this field will be more competitive as the years go on, and we are going to be seen with the respect that we deserve.
Do you notice when you mentioned how much debt you're in when you finish podiatry, that all the Australian and UK podiatrists all cracked up laughing and just shaking their heads in shock and disbelief? But
maybe
what you were saying,
35,000.
yeah, but what you were saying about the entry level to get into podiatry, say in the States, it's no different to Australia. That it's as the decades have gone on, it's become more difficult to get in. But the other part, when I used to hear people say, "Oh, I decided to do podiatry because I wasn't smart enough to get into physiotherapy," and I go, "Seriously, have you ever spoken to a physio?" It's some physios, and they're not the brightest bunch, but the difficulty to get into a course doesn't equate to how hard the course is. So when people say, "Oh, I wasn't smart enough to get into podiatry," just go, "No, the other course, there was more people wanting to get into it. Doesn't mean you weren't smart enough to get into it. It's just you didn't make the cut on how many people applied." So it's not based. It's just not based on intelligence. So
exactly.
Ektaa. Oh, actually, before we get into Ektaa, sorry, Ektaa. I know it's almost your bedtime. It's almost midnight. Yona, just wanted to ask you, what do you think about technology-wise? Do you think that will change much over the next 10 years?
I really like the idea, and I just saw this in clinic recently, the idea that you can 3D scan someone's foot and get an orthotic impression out of that. Yeah. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, because I was like, wow, like, why are we casting anymore? Well, that's so ancient. After seeing somebody with an iPad come in the room, the podiatrist, and he's like, I can cast, but I can also do just a 3D impression of your foot just within 10 seconds without the mess, without buying supplies, and it goes straight to the orthotic individuals, the company that makes the orthotics, and they'll have it in 2 weeks' time. So I was like, wow, that's incredible. So something like that just amazes me, how technology will continue to advance in that sense.
It's funny, someone who I did the recording last week, and she just said her lecturers, well, she stopped doing cast and did scans, because the person she was working with just said, "Do you realize that every time you take a plaster cast, baby Jesus cries?" That's how,
Oh my God.
that's how bad she was at doing it. But I haven't done a plaster cast since 2006. I think it was the last time I did a plaster cast, because I had scanning equipment in my clinic, and we had and then 2010 we got our own milling machine. So we would have a patient could walk into our clinic, be scanned. It could take me 10 minutes to design the orthotic on the computer and 12 and a half minutes to mill it out. So, and the orthotic was ready to basically fit, but we wouldn't always do it that fast. Just that was for myself, close friends and family, people who paid a premium. But in general, you just have them ready in 24 hours. So I do think technology, whole speed is going to basically change the profession. So Ektaa, I know you're chewing at the bit. Where do you see podiatry in the next 10 years?
So I think that the work that students are putting in with social media at this point in time, in 10 years, it's going to have a ripple effect where we're going to see a lot of students engaging in social media and using it as an educational tool to kind of educate the public, other students in medical fields about what podiatry actually is, and kind of help us get a little bit more respect for the field. And I think because of that, we're going to see a lot of younger demographic join the field. And I think that's what makes it a lot very different, is because if the demographic is mature students, not a lot of young people will join a class with a lot of mature students. Like they will probably go with their friends and do what their friends are doing and join a class where everybody's kind of in the same age group. So I think for what we're doing, what the foundation we're setting in right now, I think that's going to have a ripple effect, and we're going to see a lot of like younger people joining the field and seeing it more than, you know, just being nail clippers. And I think we're going to end up having that distinction where nail clipping eventually goes to, especially in the UK, I think we're going to see a lot of nail clipping move more towards the FHPs. And I think podiatry is going to kind of separate a little bit from that and do more biomechanics, more podiatric surgery. I think that's going to be very, very centered in our education. But those are my 2 cents. We'll see. I think that's more of like a selfish view. I really don't enjoy nail clipping. So I think that's why that's it. That exists.
Yeah, but the lady who was on the podcast, Nicola O'Brien, and she was the one that made the joke about making baby Jesus cry. She's actually set up, her whole business is all based around cosmetic podiatry.
Yeah.
And and she said, what people forget sometimes when you think about cutting toenails and debriding callus, and they go, oh, that just doesn't seem like something I want to keep doing. She said, really, you're beautifying the foot. It's aesthetic podiatry.
Yeah.
So,
and also a lot of podiatrists that do like that's their bread and butter, and I don't mean to disrespect it in any way, and I know it does sound quite disrespectful, and I'm very aware of that, but at the same time, I understand that you're helping people that can't necessarily reach their toes to be able to like cut their own toenails. So I understand that there is that aspect of helping somebody. But I think if you've got chiropodists doing, you know, cutting toenails, and you've got FHPs cutting toenails, why do you need a podiatrist to cut toenails? We can focus our craft on more biomechanics and more orthotic related stuff and more sports medicine.
So I love the different thinking. No, that's what makes podiatry really interesting. And but like she was saying, in dentistry, you have this cosmetic dentistry, this cosmetic surgeons. Then why isn't there cosmetic podiatry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that side of podiatry? She goes, why is it just looked upon not as important? But I think they'll end up probably combining, where you might have, because she also does like steroid injections and different other, you know, fillers and all these, you know, other types of treatment. So you wouldn't want a foot health practitioner doing that. So maybe the foot health practitioners will actually work with podiatrists that do high level cosmetic podiatry. Could be a big area.
It could be. I mean, there's definitely room for growth and potential.
Yeah, it's not an area that I would do. So for me personally, it's not an area that would interest me. Just like wounds are not an area that interests me. So, and yeah, so I think in 10 years, I think there will be one of you has mentioned about, I think it was Josh, about niching, that podiatry will break into different niches and more specialities that you'll like a particular area, and that's what you'll sort of go into. So before we wrap up, and I am going to break this into 2 episodes. It's going to be like a double feature. Because we've been talking for so long, but it's been great. So I hope you guys all connect with each other on social media as well, and stay in touch with each other. Yeah, if you're in the UK or if you're in America or in Australia, is reach out and actually stay in touch. That's what I love about social media and Zoom, all this sort of thing, is just how everyone can connect from basically different parts of the world. So before we finish, has anyone got any questions for me?
Why did you join podiatry? Sorry.
Why did I join podiatry? Really superficial, for the money. Yeah. So I joined because like I said, I was going to be an art teacher. And so I got into podiatry because my brother was doing dentistry, and he said, as long as you do anything in the medical field, you'll never be unemployed and you'll always make above average money. That was why I got into it. So it wasn't that, I'm going to make millions of dollars. It just, I know that I won't be unemployed and I'll make good money. As I got into it and it started to grow, even my brother is a dentist. We sit around talking, and he used to say to me, I cannot believe you make more money as a podiatrist than I do as a dentist. He goes, I just can't believe the money you make as a podiatrist is just ridiculous. And I said, so did you look after that? And what I learned, when I was all focused on money, my business didn't go very well. When I changed my focus to being, my focus is all centered around the patient and providing a really good service. and services, offering them different things. As soon as my focus went on the patient and on the people that work with me, all of a sudden my business went through the roof. So some people who knew me in the first, say, 10 years that I worked, to know me the last 10 years that I worked would just go, I was two completely different people.
So what caused that shift in mentality? Like, did you hit a breaking point, or were you just like, well, this isn't working for me? Why did you change?
Yeah, it was a couple of things. I'll tell you a story. When I was 12, it's not going to be that long a story, but when I was 12, my parents said to me, what are you going to do when you grow up? I said, I'm going to be a millionaire. And they went, oh, right. Okay. So what makes you think you can do that when your father and I aren't? And I said, oh, because I'm smarter than you guys. So my mum made me get a piece of paper out and write down, when I'm 12, I will be a millionaire. I had it written down. I signed it, Tyson, and I gave it to my mum. I never gave another thought. Oh, I had to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. That was the plan. So anyway, where was I when I was 30? I was divorced. I had 2 kids. I was divorced, bankrupt. I went bankrupt, and I had a hand condition which pretty much stopped me from working. So I'm 30 years of age, and I'm just feeling so depressed. So I decided, my dad had passed away. I'm going to go home and go and see Mum. She'll cheer me up. So I go and see my mum, and Mum goes, oh, happy birthday. I've got something for you. I went, oh, Mum never buys me anything. So she hands me this envelope. I go, what's that? I opened up, and there was the letter when I was 12. And it said, well, by the time I'm 30 years of age, I'll be a millionaire and retired. And she said, how close are you? And I went, oh. And that was the turning point. All of a sudden I realized I'd forgotten about why I was doing what it is I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much, so from 30 years of age, when I was 35, I was exactly where I wanted to be. I had gotten remarried, married someone awesome, set up my business, became more focused on the patients and not, so I was so focused on, I just want to make money. And why do I want to make money? So I could buy really flash things and show it off to all the people who said that I would never amount to anything when I was a kid. So my drive was wrong. I was trying to work to prove things to other people. But then when I hit 30 and I was at rock bottom, all of a sudden I realized, no, I just want to prove things to myself.
Yeah.
And that's when things, and prove things to people who cared about me, not the assholes who used to give me heaps of shit when I was at uni, because I went to like a really bad school that in America is like going to the Bronx where I went. So when you got to uni, if you didn't go to a private school that was really great, they just hung shit on you. And that just got me so angry and fired up. But now when I see them and I know I kicked their asses, now it makes me feel good. But
love it.
That was the big change. Yeah, became focused on what was really important. And once you do that, everything else just improves.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So not everyone knows that story. But now everybody does know this story.
Sorry.
I know, like I always say, I'm an open book. I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't hide anything. My wife always says that when people meet me, what you see is exactly what you get. I don't try and pretend to be somebody else. So so you just go. To me, you just got to be you.
Yeah, I think that's really great, because like that will that personality comes across in your practice as well, and I think that's what attracts people to you in the first place.
Oh, it's the same when I do the 12-week podiatry business reboot. Most of the people, most of the podiatrists that are in that group, or nearly all the podiatrists that have been gone through this group coaching, have all got a certain person. There's a certain personality that all of them are slightly nutty in some way. So, and some of them, like in the first group, all said you attract a certain type of podiatrist that wants to work with you. And because there'd be certain podiatrists that just wouldn't work with me, because to them I'm not professional enough. Yeah, I don't wear a tie, I don't wear a suit. So yeah.
Wow,
I think
they
that's
wear ties and suits to clinic. Sorry, just talked over.
Oh, some people will wear down south in Melbourne, they sort of like snobbier areas. No, just the more capital cities, sometimes some of the podiatrists used to wear ties. What about you, Josh? Have you seen that down there?
The podiatrists that I have ghosted just wear like just slacks and a shirt really when they work. I haven't seen any podiatrists wearing suits.
Yeah, I have seen some in the past. I don't think it happens much. I think everyone's gotten a lot more relaxed. Whereas where I am in Cairns, I'm in the tropics, I would wear shorts 365 days a year. So I'd go to work wearing shorts, my Nike skate shoes, and a polo shirt. That's just how that's how we rolled.
Sounds formal enough, I feel.
Oh yeah, yeah. As long as your shoes were clean, that was the main thing. So, is anyone any other questions before we wrap up?
Any last tips for us students?
Yeah, I think find what you're passionate about in podiatry. In some of the talks I've been doing recently, I go, when you graduate and once you start working and you're allowed to choose the type of work that you want to do. Because at a certain point, you're being told by your lecturers what you need to do. When you start working for somebody else, you got to listen to your employer. They will tell you what they want you to do. But I think two things is once you're starting to work for yourself or you get to make your own decisions, find out what do you want to do more of, what do you want to do less of, and what do you want to stop doing? And what it is, and you work out percentage of what do you really love doing in podiatry? That's your happy zone, and that's what you want to do more of. What do you want to do less of? You don't actually hate it, but it doesn't actually get you excited. Write a list of things that you want to do less of and just do less of it. And there'll be certain things in podiatry you do not like. So when you get the choice of not having to do it anymore, then just do not do it and don't let anyone talk you into it. Like I would never treat an ulcer. If somebody rang up and said, I've got an ulcer and I'll give you $500, I go, keep your $500 because I don't want to see it. I knew what I didn't want. So work there, what you want more of, less of, and what you want to stop doing. And the other part, I think right now is, that's why I asked you a question about social media, is get into social media and start creating your brand now. Who are you? Yeah, within reason. Like everyone knows that Ektaa is slightly nutty. Everybody knows that already. She does these nutty videos. But the thing is, by the time Ektaa finishes podiatry, I've already seen the people that she's connected with on social media are all a lot of the people that are connected to a lot of people. So before she's even graduated, everybody in the UK is going to know who she is. So when it comes to applying for a job, I think it'll be more like, who does Ektaa want to work for? Not trying to find, where can I find a job? There'll be people approaching her to say, you will fit my clinic. So my clinic was slightly nutty. Ektaa would have been a perfect fit for my clinic.
I love that.
So I think you can all just start.
I can do the same for just.
Yeah. So I think you can all start. I had a guy that was on my other podcast, It's No Secret with Dr. T. And if you want to listen to some really, really cool interviews, go over onto that podcast and listen to some of them. One of the guys that was on there from Florida, he was a bartender in Florida, and he did branding for bartenders. And he said, with bartenders, you've got to find your spirit animal. What's the spirit of choice? Rum, bourbon, is it vodka? Then you've got to create cocktails around that particular spirit. Then you have to give them a name, and those cocktails have to then become part of your brand. So he said what was happening in Florida, bartenders would become that popular. When they were working on one bar on this night, crowds would flock because they were there. And I think a lot of students can start doing it themselves, is start building their own brand of what they like, what they're interested in. So when they actually graduate, the people that are going to employ you will know what they're employing. And you will eventually, if you're staying in the same area, even if you do move from different practice, people will follow you because they like the brand. They like what they're seeing. They like the value that you're actually offering people. So they're my two tips. And have fun. Main thing, just have fun. Don't be in a rush to be successful. Just let it happen. Have fun along the way, and the success will come your way. But if you try and push it too hard or too fast, like I did, you will crash and burn, and next thing you'll be sitting on the floor with a bottle of rum. It's not a good look.
Yeah, I hear you. Been there, done that. Don't push, just relax and enjoy it.
So what I need you guys to do is send me your address, and I will send you a shirt, and I'll also send you a copy of my book so that you can basically have a read of it. And I know, Sarah, you said you already got a copy of my book.
Yeah, I've already got one. Yeah, I bought one.
I'll send you a copy of my second book.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've got the podiatry one. Yeah, I've got the podiatry.
The second book is very similar to the podiatry one. It's just got different stories and it's targeted slightly different. But I'll send everyone a copy of my first book and a T-shirt. So you need to send me your address and your shirt sizes. And Diksha and Yona, you guys see each other all the time, so you can just give me your shirt sizes and one address, and I'll just send it there. It'll be easier.
Yay! It's just like a birthday party. It's so fun.
It will be, yes. And then when you get the book and the T-shirt, put the shirt on, take the book, photo of the book, and then post it on social media.
Oh, you bet.
And make your friends jealous.
Yeah.
Will I get
We'll be on a YouTube video, don't worry.
What was that, Emily?
Will I get my T-shirt before my mum gets hers, because she might just cut you out if that happens?
How funny would that be? No, I'll actually, I'm sending, what it is for the UK, what I'm doing for the UK, I'm sending over a whole pile of stuff all to Jonathan Small's house, and then he's going to post it off individually. Because to post anything from Australia anywhere is just ridiculous how much it costs. Whereas if you post it as a big group, and then they post it individually from there, it just works out a lot cheaper.
Oh, get mine before Mum's Day.
I might just send you, just send yours directly. And then you can post, and then I'll post it to you, and then you can post it to Ektaa, unless you guys see each other.
That's an idea.
You guys should tee up. Yeah, why don't you guys have a chat and then see how far you are apart, and then you can tee up together, and then you can put your shirts on with the book and a photograph, just to annoy everybody else.
Hey, I think that's a great idea. I'd love to do that.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. I want to thank you all for coming on and being part of the Podiatry Legends podcast. This is part 2. Because this is part 2, because this has been a long episode. I know everybody at the moment, we're in different time zones in Australia. It's early Sunday morning, so we're all now awake, which is great. I know Ektaa and Emily in the UK, it's heading towards midnight, so you're just about now to have a few more drinks and go out and party. And the guys in America, what is it, heading into the evening now?
I'm in Eastern time. It's about 6:45 p.m.
Okay, so Diksha and Yona, you guys have still got time to go for a swim.
Yeah, go to swim right now.
Well, we have fires in our state, so we can't do much. But
that's right. True. Yes, yeah. Just wear a mask. Wear a mask. Yeah. So everyone, please stay safe. Look after yourselves. And Ektaa, we're going to be talking during the week very soon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot. Actually, before we go, I just want to do a screenshot.
Yes.
Before we go, so this will be. Let me just hang on. The video's still on, but that's all right. I just want to get this squared off so that I can actually use this as the show tile. So everyone try and be on your best behavior for this photo. We'll see how it goes. Actually, I might just let me just move this out of the way, microphone. Okay, you ready? Got it. Oh, well, this episode's going to come out in October. So if everybody wants to send me actually like a nice photo of themselves, I'll actually do a proper show tile, but I will post this early just saying we recorded it today and this is going to come out later and you guys are in for a treat.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting everybody. Thank you.
Bye.